Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to your favorite basketball podcast. This is Sitting Courtside, episode number 72. We couldn't think of an athlete that wore number 72 because there probably aren't many of them, and it is a very weird number. So we're just going to say episode number 72. Nothing special about it. Like always, some O-line. Like always, my name is Dante.
It's your boy Jerry D, man.
We're not here to talk about O-linemen. We're here to talk about some NBA basketball. We are back with another week.
I love Jeff Saturday.
He is a great analyst, a great commentator. I'm a big fan of his. But we'll save the special Jeff Saturday episode for next week. This week we have a few different NBA topics to talk about. We have some teams to talk about, some NBA players, former stars that are turning some teams around, and some more trade rumors that we have discussed before, but things are starting to heat up a little bit more, some more developments that we will jump into. But first and foremost, Jerry, let's talk about two teams that were at the bottom of the Western Conference standings last season, and now they are towards the top. Started from the bottom, now we're here. Welcome to the top of the Western Conference standings, Houston and Memphis. Houston Rockets are 28-14 right now. The Memphis Grizzlies are 28-15. Both are second and third in the Western Conference, respectively. They're both teams are looking very impressive. Both teams are kind of similar but different. The Rockets are a very young team, right? But they have, some veterans there. Dillon Brooks, Fred VanVleet, very well coached, Ime Udoka. Memphis Grizzlies have a mix of young guys, some vets, some, middle of the pack guys like John Moran, who's been in the league for a few years, Jaren Jackson, also very well coached.
Taylor Jenkins.
I want to get your opinion on what you're seeing from these teams and why you think, I listed, the talent they have. I listed, coaching, how well coached they are. But what do you think are the biggest reasons why these teams were able to turn things around? The rosters on each team kind of look a little different from last year to this year, but nothing too drastic. So what are your thoughts on the Rockets and the Grizzlies? Where do you think they could end up? We're almost halfway through the season now, or we are halfway through the season, actually. So halfway through, thoughts on both those teams?
Yeah, I mean, starting with Houston here, I think their whole thing was just time. I think with all the youth that they had, like we talked a lot extensively over the summer, the Rockets have the deepest young core. They have the best young core.
That was my sleeper team. I'll put my hand up and admit it.
And, my sleeper team was the team I'm going to talk about next. But sticking with yours right now with the Rockets, I'd say that we did a very good job over the summer, laying out the groundwork for where we are today. So shout out to Dante.
We looked into our magic crystal ball, and we saw
it's just my head, man. It's just
hey, ball is beautiful, Jerry. I'll tell you that till the day we die.
But I thank you. I appreciate that. But I definitely think that Houston was it's only a matter of time. I mean, they got a finals-worthy head coach in Ime Udoka, who obviously had the situation in Boston that we don't talk about anymore because they won the title. It doesn't matter anymore, but he still got them to the NBA Finals in, what was it, like year one or year two, with that, whatever it was, when he started with Boston. So we all knew and acknowledged that Ime Udoka is a great head coach, and he just happened to land.
He's just a little freaky.
Hey, we got a lot of those guys around the NBA with Zion Williamson and Ime, We can make a starting five and have a few coaches probably, but
absolutely.
His freaky ass managed to turn the Houston Rockets, which again we talked extensively. The young core is great. Jalen Green, Kent Whitmore, Şengün, like all these guys that they have, and he just molded them into basically what he wanted. It's not Boston-esque because they don't have the same type of talent with Tatum and Brown obviously being the lead guys, and then the Drew Holidays of the world, the Derek Whites, but transforming his team into a playoff contender it starts with the big man. It starts with the center in Şengün, and then I have a hyper-explosive wing that can drop 40 at any minute with Jalen Green, and then the supportive pieces, the Fred VanVleets, like you mentioned, the Dillon Brooks, and then Amen Thompson, looking like a crazy slashing two-way wing kind of right now.
And
like
someone I always forget's on there, Steven Adams, veteran center.
Yes. Yeah, like everything they have going on, it just needed time to develop. Even with Steven Adams missing out all last year with injury and then landing in a situation where now he could just play some quality backup minutes behind a young center and just probably showing some things
and their top pick in this last year's draft barely even plays.
Barely. He doesn't need to.
Yeah, doesn't have to.
That's the best part about it, where there isn't immense amount of pressure on every lottery pick that they get has to
Right.
be productive right away.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's the past ones, Jabari Smith, Tari Eason, like, they have good pieces on this team that just looks really good with everything they have going on. Other than Cam Whitmore kind of, looking like he wants the ball a little more. I've seen reports about him a little unhappy with the touches and whatnot. So that's probably the only blemish.
The struggle is playing on a team like that. You only have one ball, have a lot of mouths to feed. I honestly can't say enough great things about the Rockets. I thought they were going to be a sleeper team, but I didn't think
They're
they would
very
be
loud.
I didn't think they'd be the number 2 seed halfway through the season. Like, that's ridiculous how well they are this far into the season. I'm looking at this Rockets team, kind of like to jump it a little bit of where I can see them ending up this season.
Yeah.
Before we talk about the Grizzlies, as great as they are right now, second seed in the West, I do think they're still a little too young to make a deep playoff run. Now, could they surprise me? Absolutely. Am I going to hold? Do I think that it's impossible to happen? Absolutely not. But just looking at the other teams in the West, and once the playoff times come around, players step up, teams pick it up, whatever it may be. I'm looking at this Rockets team like you listed a lot of really solid players, a lot of really good players that are going to continue to improve. And again, there's only one basketball. There's a lot of mouths to feed. I'm curious if you think the same way as me, but I'm kind of looking at this Houston Rockets team in this season as we're going to see who we want to keep around for the long term and who we can kind of maybe include in a trade in the off season and get pieces to kind of put things together. Or they can build around what they have and, do like a Thunder, do like a Celtics-esque route where you just build around everyone and, they stick together. But I can see this being like they're throwing everyone out there, seeing who plays well with each other and what works, and they'll see where they go this offseason.
Yeah, I could definitely see them being buyers at some point. I don't think it happens at the deadline, but
no, I don't think they should do anything this year. If they do anything, maybe get a bench piece, but nothing crazy.
I have seen though, like reports about Devin Booker potentially, like Houston's after D Book and a potential other wing, and it's like, why? Like, you kind of have Devin Booker's not exactly the player I'd envision in a Houston Rockets jersey if Phoenix implodes, which we are expecting they will, but we'll talk about that later in the season, I'm sure. But it's definitely more so in the summertime. Again, I mentioned Cam Whitmore being unhappy about the touches and his usage rate and whatnot. So maybe that's a piece that I know if I'm a young up and coming team, I want Cam Whitmore on my team. Like, maybe if it's Brooklyn, maybe if it's, Utah or one of these other bottom feeder teams that just want to give you a draft pick to go get him and maybe you get another complimentary piece. I would pull the trigger. For sure. Like, Houston definitely has the right assets. They have the attitude. It looks like from Ime Udoka that not only can they compete somewhat this year, and I agree with you, I think they are too young, but if they do go get another star, that could very much accelerate what they have going on. But it has 100%. To be the perfect star. It has to fit. Everything has to make sense. You just can't force it.
It's not a move that you just make to make, right? You got to make sure you're making the right move because you can mess everything up. The Rockets have something going here. They've been patient with the picks, developing everyone. Take your time with it. There's no rush to make a trade. Again, if you just want to hold on to everyone and build everyone up together, that's fine too. You're building a culture. You got the head coach in Ime Udoka. Like, you can absolutely do that. But if someone comes around and it's hard to say no to whoever it may be, like, then you might want to pull the trigger. But
real quick, before we jump into the Memphis side of things, who would you deem as untouchables in trade talks if you're Houston? Like, I know one is already Şengün, but
yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, if I had to pick one, I'd pick Şengün. I'd pick him over Jalen Green. I think Jalen Green's fantastic. I think he's having a great season, but there are more players like Jalen Green than there are like Şengün in the NBA. I think Şengün's a little harder to replace. I think you can find a player more similar to Jalen Green's play style if you were to trade him in return than getting someone in return for Şengün similar to him.
So Şengün's the one that I'll die on this game.
He should be the franchise cornerstone. You build around. You don't have to say you're building around Şengün, but like that's the guy you want to keep around for this entirety of the rebuild, trade, whatever it may be. Keep Şengün around.
I'd agree. So Jalen Green for the right price, we're both kind of like we
absolutely, yeah, for sure.
All right. Just wanted to see where both of our heads are at.
Yeah, for sure.
But moving into the Memphis side of things, like this is my sleeper pick.
Yep.
This is who I thought was going to just jump off the page, and I think I had Ja Morant as my MVP. Injuries kind of, messed up the chances of that. I'm missing out on some games where it looks like SGA is just Usain Bolt.
He's running away with it. Yeah, big time.
Kind of crazy. Jokic has something to say about that, maybe, but
he's the only one. He's the only one that'll compete with him for the award. Yeah.
But the Memphis Grizzlies, it's been phenomenal basketball on their part, especially doing things still in the absence without Ja Morant missing some of these games.
Yeah, he's been missing some time, and they've been doing well without him.
I think, but just having his overall presence around where they know, all right, he'll be back next week. Everything about the team just looks so contingent upon his presence. Because, it's basically the same roster.
They really hadn't made many moves.
The biggest additions were rookies and Zach Edey and Jalen Wells, who just came out of nowhere, but happened to be this mid to late first round pick and just pops off.
And Edey is a favorite to win Rookie of the Year. He might be the favorite to win Rookie of the Year.
And I love it. He's a perfect 3-and-D piece for them to throw in behind Desmond Bane and stuff like that. So, man, I can't speak enough about the Grizzlies. I think they're first in points. They're first in pace or whatever it is too. They run, they get out there, they move the basketball, and they play well. And Jaren Jackson, also, you still can't rebound worth a damn, but you are a two-way player that is very important for this team. So I love what I'm seeing from Memphis just as much as I am Houston.
I think with them too, similar to the Rockets, they've been patient. They haven't done an overhaul with this team. This is a team that they've been working with and building around for the last 3-4 years. So they made it to all the way to what was it? The conference finals in 2022, or the second round, whatever. They've had playoff runs. They've had deep playoff runs with this roster, and that's when Ja Morant was younger. That was before, obviously he's getting, as the years going, he's getting more and more into his prime. But they've had a lot of time together, a lot of experience together, and that's something that, where, they were your sleeper team, whatever. Maybe some people didn't expect them to be this high up in the standings, but they were a really good team when they were all healthy over the last few years. So I don't think this should be a shocking development of how'd the Grizzlies go from here to here? Look at their team last year. They had the most missed players in NBA history, or at least that season.
It was 36
different. I was going to say it was 30
lineups.
Different starting lineups or whatever the fuck it was. They're most likely going to turn things around the next season when they have everyone back and healthy. So I'm happy to see the Grizzlies are back to being, towards the top of the West, because the NBA is more fun when a team like the Grizzlies is well, and Ja Morant he's been hurt a little bit this year, but healthy and running the show over in Memphis.
Yeah, no, it definitely looks great. Things, I think, even for this Western Conference playoff run, I know we're going to miss out on some teams like the Kings and potentially the Warriors that's been in the last couple of postseasons. But with all due respect to those organizations, I definitely push Memphis to the forefront. They're the star power.
I'm sick of seeing the same teams, and I know the Kings are a little different, but more like the Warriors. But I like seeing these teams like the Rockets, the young teams, and the Grizzlies kind of stepping up and taking over. Stepping over a team like the Grizzlies, the Warriors.
No, absolutely. I mentioned just the rankings of them being first in points and pace and all that. They're top 10 or top 12 in a lot of these major statistical categories. So they're just playing at an elite level right now. They're a game and a half back behind the Rockets right now, I think, in the Western Conference standings.
It's close.
Both of these teams, they're doing their thing after being dragged in the mud for maybe the last couple of years. Not so much Memphis, but more so Rockets for that. But either way, last year was just one of those throwaway seasons, just like for Golden State a few years back. Except Curry's hurt.
And they got a top draft pick, and they got a guy that can win Rookie of the Year out of it. So it all worked out for them. Take a year off and get a top draft pick.
That's exactly what you need sometimes. So I guess the next kind of question before we move on to our next topic here, just who do you trust more going into the postseason? Obviously, OKC's at the top of the West right now, which I feel like we're all just kind of all right,
Western Conference locked in that spot. It runs through them.
Definitely. But Houston, Memphis, who would you put your money on to kind of push past that point or get deeper in the postseason?
I feel bad for not really taking much time to think about this or consider it, but I did mention earlier about how I think the Rockets won't make a deep playoff run. I'm going to say the Grizzlies because same things I said before. They have some experience together. This group, this core, has made deep playoff runs and has multiple playoff appearances. And they're healthy going into the playoffs, led by John Moran. I don't think there's anyone on the Rockets better than John Morant. So I think they have the best player. I would say the Grizzlies. I'm not trying to downplay or discredit the Rockets by any means, but I would put my money on the Grizzlies.
And we're going to put our money in the same exact pot because if you're surprised that I was going to choose Memphis as well.
We'll just start a joint bank account. We'll put the money in. Put
Capital One.
Yeah. Oh, I'm in. Hey, we're in. Let's do it.
It's just kind of a no-brainer for me, though. Like I said, the pace of play. I know things tend to slow down come postseason time. It becomes more of a half-court system that we see. But John Morant has shown over the years he's a playoff performer. And I just can't wait to see him back in that setting with this refined version of this team. Plus, him missing all that time last year, I think made Desmond Bane like this, I'm a bona fide number 2 to 3 option. Like him and Jaren can take the keys and just exchange them back and forth. Like we both play very well out for John now. So
yeah,
I'm excited for what this postseason is going to entail. Like it's going to be great. It's going
to be entertaining. Like you said, the Thunder I think have the number 1 seed locked, and we think the Western Conference is going to go through them. But there's a lot of sneaky teams out there that can make things interesting come playoff time. So one of those teams, Jerry, is a team that, over the last few years, we are familiar with them being towards the top of the Western Conference, being one of the more dominant teams. This year, they're kind of, floating around the West. They're a playoff team, but not as dominant as previous seasons. But Russell Westbrook is starting to turn around the Denver Nuggets, it seems, because the Nuggets are, believe it or not, Russell Westbrook, the player that a lot of teams gave up on, the Nuggets are 17-5 when Russell Westbrook is starting for the Denver Nuggets. Jokic said teams in the past misunderstood him, and Russell Westbrook is averaging 13 points, 5 rebounds, 6.5 assists. Nuggets were 13-10 to start the season, and now they are 27-16. I don't know what seed they are in.
I think they're the fourth.
The fourth seed. So we're talking about this episode. We're talking about the second, third, and fourth seed in the Western Conference. So yeah, Nuggets at 4. We've talked about Russell Westbrook many times on this podcast when he's been on multiple teams, teams in the past. And, we've seen how other teams treat him and how, other teams use him and, his place on other teams, his roles. And we were a little bit, at least I'm speaking for myself, a little bit hesitant or a little questioning, his fit on the Nuggets and, what it would look like and how he would fit in there. At halfway through the season, I think it's fair to say that Russell Westbrook has been a great addition for the Denver Nuggets. He has been, we were talking about him being a bench piece, but forget that. As a starter, that is where he belongs on this team, it seems. And him and Jokic play very well together. They get triple doubles together. So that's, we don't have to worry about them fitting in. But yeah, just kind of want to get your thoughts on Russell Westbrook, his fit there, his addition to the starting lineup, what it means to this team, and what it means for the rest of the Western Conference, what we should look out for.
I mentioned pace for the Memphis Grizzlies and for the Rockets in our last segment. The Nuggets are 5th in pace. Like I just looked it up. It's like, they've been playing faster. That's been Russell Westbrook pushing the break.
Absolutely.
Obviously, like just inserting him at, what is he, 35, 36 years old?
Yeah.
You wouldn't really expect to be saying this 10 years ago. Like, when Russ is 36, he's still going to be
he's pushing the
dog in transition.
Yeah.
Like he's pushing everything faster. And that kind of erases what we talked about could be the problem at the beginning of the season, which was spacing, they lost KCP. I don't really know, like the season before they lost Jeff Green, another guy who could space the floor, like Bruce Brown even. They don't have any 3-point shooting, and this is a 3-point shooting league. And those were the points that not only me and you were making, but that people on TV were making too about, the Nuggets are going to be this and that because they don't have any perimeter shooting.
And I was saying when we were talking about Jimmy Butler a few weeks ago that if the Nuggets want to trade for him, they should trade Jamal Murray because if they traded Michael Porter Jr., they'd be losing their best shooter, and that would fuck them.
Yeah, now it doesn't even matter.
No, it doesn't.
Like I gave Russell Westbrook a lot of props, man. Like I said it when he was with my Lakers. He did not fit here. It didn't make any sense to put him alongside LeBron. He gets to the other side of LA, plays for the Clippers. I like the fit with LA. I like the fit with the Clippers.
A lot better fit there.
I think Ty Lue probably could have inserted him into the starting lineup, but getting James Harden kind of made that hard for him, and I get that.
Made that Harden for him.
Yeah. But which clearly pushed him out to where, he's floating in purgatory. People are talking about his career is about to be over. He probably has one more season left if he's lucky. Now he lands with Denver, and the only possible person that could fix this dude, I put quotes on that, is another fellow MVP who's won 3 of the last 4 MVP awards.
And the new triple-double king of the NBA.
Like, it's ridiculous that Nikola Jokic looks even better now than any of his other MVP years, with the former MVP in Russell Westbrook, who's supposed to be a locker room cancer, who's supposed to ruin situations, right? Like he ruined the Lakers and ruined the Clippers' chances. Like, he gets all this unnecessary blame. And now Nikola Jokic is top 3 in points, rebounds, and assists.
It's January 22nd. Nikola Jokic has had 4 straight games of triple-doubles without entering the fourth quarter. That's crazy. That's insane, and he's not even going to win MVP this year.
And honestly, I don't know. I think we just want to see SGA win it because that's just voter fatigue.
If we look at the statistics and everything like that, like Jokic, probably should get it over SGA, but with everything else around it, I'm still going with SGA, but I get what you're saying.
It's like a narrative thing for SGA. We're not talking about SGA right now.
Another topic.
Another day. Another episode.
Another day.
But just the sheer fact that Russell Westbrook has basically been this, he was supposed to be a kryptonite for every team he went to. Now he's rewrote this back end twilight zone of his career to where it's like, hey, I'm still a contributor on a champion contending team because that's what the Nuggets are. Like it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to see it. Russell Westbrook is one of those guys that we grew up watching. One of the most impactful players of our lifetime, of our era of basketball.
Absolutely.
And it's like, you want to see, as much as I want to see the Celtics win, the next 10 championships, I would like to see players like Russell Westbrook, get the flowers they deserve. I would like to see him. I don't know if it's going to be this year or whatever. I'd like to see him go out with the ring because he is one of those guys I think definitely deserves to have one on his resume. And I think it would go a long way for his legacy as far as like people ranking him all time, all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So I hope the best for him. I hope it works out for them this year. And I'll tell you what, I do feel a little bit more confident about what Denver can do come playoff time now than I did a month ago, probably.
I definitely feel more confident, but something is telling me they're still going to fall short.
Oh, I still would pick a few teams ahead of them.
Yeah,
for sure. But I do feel a little bit more confident that they can get further now than I thought they could a few weeks ago.
I know every single night they're gonna have the best player on the floor, and I can give them that.
I can't fight you on that one. That's for damn sure. But okay, let's move on from one team, one middle of the pack team out west to another middle of the pack team out east. The Milwaukee Bucks, who are in the mix to get Bradley Beal. I don't know if disgruntled is the word, but
maybe
we'll say disgruntled star
troubled.
in Phoenix.
Let's say troubled.
Troubled star in Phoenix. Troubled because there's a lot going on over there with rumors of Jimmy Butler being sent to Phoenix, Bradley Beal potentially getting traded to all these places. He has a no trade clause. Now he's on the bench, and he has been playing terrible off the bench, but there's just a lot going on. And now Bradley Beal is apparently open to be traded to Milwaukee, according to this John fella. I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name because I saw that word going over the script, and I'm like, I'll struggle with that one. So
let's go with Gambadaro.
I would have said gonorrhea. The Milwaukee Bucks were a finalist to land Bradley Beal from the Wizards back in 2023. So obviously they have some, there's some history there. They've had some trade talks in the past. Also, want to point out the Suns traded for 3 first-round picks from Utah in exchange for their pick in 2031. So it seems like they are just loading up on first-round picks, kind of like taking one piece of pizza and then chopping it into 3 pieces.
You've seen the meme.
It's still the value of one pizza slice. It might even be less value of a one pizza slice, but hey, I guess 3 is better than 1. There's some stuff going on. There's some stuff brewing in Phoenix. Let's just tackle this thing one by one. One, do you think Phoenix is going to make a move, which I would assume is going to include Bradley Beal? And 2, do you see Milwaukee being a realistic landing spot? I'm assuming that this is going to be like a multiple, like it'll be like Milwaukee, Phoenix, Miami. Like there's going to be.
I got you. Down.
So Jerry, you got me. I believe. Go take the phone. Take the mic from me.
In this notes, that we share as we do our topics, guys. Yes, we're human. We write things out, guys. You should.
Absolutely.
It's great. But from our own Tomer Zarli, I've seen on his Twitter account, he kind of broke down the trade scenario that would be possible if Bradley Beal is open, if he does waive the no trade clause.
Right. Talk to me. What are we looking at?
Obviously, the Suns get the biggest piece of them all considerably, and they only get one piece, which would be Jimmy Butler.
Okay.
Going to Phoenix. Right. Bradley Beal and Kevin Love would end up in Milwaukee.
Kevin Love is going in the mix here. Okay.
The Heat land possibly. This is all hypotheticals. It's fluid.
It's all fluid. It's all fluid.
But Bruce Brown and Chris Middleton, and the Raptors get Bobby Portis and Pat Connaughton. So it would be a 4-team trade.
I'm assuming there's going to be picks thrown in.
Yeah, definitely some draft comp. Like Phoenix would probably give those picks up.
I would say Miami's probably going to want to get a pick or 2 back. Milwaukee, maybe they'll get something. But actually, I don't know. Okay,
I don't know.
Raptors would be the 4th team involved because there needs to be a team that can take cap and
salary dump.
Salary dump.
Yes, exactly. Because the Raptors, the Bucks are going to have to move on from Portis and Connaughton to free up space for Bradley Beal's $50 million deal.
And Chris Middleton being thrown in the mix there too, which you would assume Chris Middleton would be one of the bigger pieces being moved out
to Miami.
Bradley Beal, Brook Lopez, I was thinking could be another guy that could be in there for salary, but that seems like that would be, maybe you take out the Raptors for another 4th team, whatever, but that seems to be like the most realistic, framework for a trade there. Do you think, not to talk about like the Raptors or whatever, but like, do you realistically see that? Do you think in a month from now that trade is going to go through or something along these lines?
Honestly, I think it's all contingent.
Keep in mind, Jimmy Butler is wearing Phoenix shoes, Phoenix-colored shoes. He is changing the color of his braid. Listen, he's trolling. He knows what he's doing, okay? This definitely means something. He's doing all this.
It does.
There are factors. There's factors into this. And the 3 first-round picks, like, they're not just doing that to get, you know what? Let's just get 3 first-round picks. We'll get the worst of these. They're doing it for a reason. They're doing it for a reason.
The thing is, the funniest piece about this is, before I answer your question, it's all contingent upon Bradley Beal.
Yeah, 100%. He just says no, and everything falls through, and you just keep moving. There's nothing Phoenix can do.
Not at that point.
Not a damn thing.
Nothing he could do either, unless they move Jimmy for nothing somewhere else. So.
Right.
But honestly, I think this would happen. But I don't know if if the Raptors are going to get involved, like how our guys at Clutch Points seem to think so. Maybe they do for the sake of salary. But I do see a world, if Bradley Beal's open to playing for Milwaukee, it's like, okay, cool. But is Milwaukee open to having Bradley Beal on their roster?
Yeah, Milwaukee is... They should be open to making a move. They have gotten better. They have gotten better as the season has gone on. If this was a month ago, I would say they'd probably, maybe they could make this. But how they have looked over the last month makes me think that making a move like this, you're shaking up a lot just to get Bradley Beal and Kevin Love. I don't want to disrespect Kevin Love, but we're talking about 2025 Kevin Love here. We're not talking about late 2010s, nothing like that.
I like K Love for the locker room.
I like him for the locker room, but if you're missing out on Chris Middleton, who's I guess he's a bench guy now, but you have Chris Middleton, Bobby Portis, who are both, and Connaughton, you can say, are all borderline starters, and they're important to the team. They're either borderline starters or solidified starting role players that were also on the championship team. So you're trading all of that for Kevin Love. No disrespect, I'm not even accounting him to any of this. I'm just saying Bradley Beal. That's who they're getting here.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's worth getting rid of 3 quality players for someone that is good. He's 31. He's still in his prime, you can say, but is it a good fit? It's a lot. It's a big risk to take to break up that team.
We gave Nikola Jokic his props for being able to, I guess, I don't want to say save Russell Westbrook's career, but for lack of a better term, I will.
Revitalize, maybe, or something like that.
Yeah, but
Sure.
I like, look at you.
Yeah,
Look at the dictionary. Let's go. But we could say that Giannis could potentially help Bradley Beal do the same. I think that's the deterring factor.
Sure.
Plus,
But on the other side of it, though, is if it doesn't work out, that gives Giannis a bigger reason to leave.
it definitely does.
So you have to kind of weigh out.
If you're Milwaukee's brass, if you're the organization, if you're the GM, you should go to Giannis and be like, hey, what do you think about us getting Bradley Beal and hopping in on this 3-team deal to get you another former All-Star, another guy that averaged 30? And plus, like, I mean, I feel like every team should do that when they're trying to improve their team.
You have to run it by your star player. At the same time, with everything with Damian Lillard and how it went down, it's like, listen, I know Damian Lillard is Damian Lillard, and it's like, it's only been one season, whatever, but do you want Giannis's opinion in there? Do you want his opinion in there? He kind of almost ruined the team by doing that trade.
That is true. That is true.
I don't know. I think there's a lot of, I think Milwaukee's taking the biggest risk here by doing this trade. Phoenix, they're no risk. They're getting Jimmy Butler. They're getting the player they want. They're getting do or die, honestly. But I think fit-wise, Jimmy Butler would fit into that team and like be a better third option on that team than Bradley Beal. It's the and obviously the Heat. I mean, you get rid of Butler, you're gonna get picks. You get Chris Middleton, who can still play, and some other guys. But like the Bucks are taking a big risk. So
even though they're taking a big risk, though, like here's what they need to ask themselves. And I'm going to ask you.
Okay.
You're the Milwaukee Bucks organization. You're the GM.
Sure.
You look at your team right now. You're 4th out in the East. There are 3 teams above you. You got the Knicks. You got the Celtics, obviously, and the Cavaliers. Are you better than any of those teams, or can you beat them in the postseason when it's time?
I think they should believe that they can beat those teams. I think they're in a playoff 7-game series.
7-game series.
Will Milwaukee go into any of those 3 teams' home court and beat them? No. But I wouldn't put it past them if they could beat a team like New York.
Potentially.
Or even Cleveland, because Cleveland is still newer to this. Boston, Milwaukee. They have their history. Listen. Let me get there. All right, listen. Boston is deeper than
they are.
New York and Cleveland, and they're the championship team. They have the championship pedigree. I think Milwaukee has that over New York and Cleveland as well. They have the championship experience. I think Boston can combat that. Obviously, I think Milwaukee realistically could, but I wouldn't put money on it. Okay. So in that case, should they make a move to try to get ahead of them? I suppose. But again, if you fuck it up, Giannis is gone after next season. He's gone.
But he's going to be gone. The only reason I asked you the question because I think he's gone.
Either way.
So if the outcome is not a chip.
So take a chance. Like if he's leaving anyways, take a chance. I get it. But is Bradley Beal the chance you want to take? Is that the best case? Is that the best case? Like
I wouldn't say
do? Is there no one else out there?
I think they need to explore their options. Absolutely. But I do kind of think with that being said, like if they get into a 7-game series with any of those teams that we mentioned, like Cleveland and New York are the ones I can see them beating. But I'm not even 100% sure because of how those 2 teams have played. They played Boston. I think it's over in 6 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
That's my thing. Like if they can't beat the top team of the East, which even though Cleveland's there, we all think that Boston will be better come playoff time.
But do you feel more or less confident in the Bucks with Bradley Beal than with 3 guys that they won
a
championship?
Okay.
That's the thing you have to look at. Is again like going back to who they're trading. They're trading 3 champions. One that was a starter. Bobby Portis may have been a starter. At least he was a very valuable player.
He's the 3rd most important player on that team.
Exactly. And Pat Connaughton ain't no scrub. Boston, Massachusetts boy right there represent. What? What? Yeah.
I mean,
anyways,
but
it's just you're trading 3 guys, important pieces to that
Championship level
team.
experience.
Championship level pieces
Yes.
for a guy that hasn't proven that and could very much come in and make things worse. And Doc Rivers is the head coach. It's not like you have a coach who can like put this all together and make it work. Like we can't trust Doc to do that. If we
You're
had
right.
if we had a like like Ime Udoka or the Grizzlies, anyone else, sure, maybe we can trust it. But Doc Rivers being the head of the snake here, I don't know if I trust him fitting Bradley Beal in next to Damian Lillard and Giannis. I don't know if I can trust him.
I honestly, like, if I'm Milwaukee, I probably don't make the move. But I'm thinking on the outside looking in, it's kind of like,
it's tempting. It's something to think about.
You guys might not, really make a lot of noise. If you get the bad first round draw, let's say it's against Orlando or something like that, and they're healthy.
Orlando.
They have Franz back. They have Paolo getting back in it. Things could get ugly.
They could be a first round exit this year.
They
Milwaukee. They realistically could. Yeah, it's.
I don't know. All right. I'm trying to be optimistic for Beal because, I kind of feel like he needs another change of scenery because he chose to go to Phoenix and he chased the super team name. Devin Booker and KD, sign me up. Now at this point, he's chasing another big names and Dame and Giannis, and I think there's a little more promise in my mind. Yeah, he is a groupie. But there's more promise in my mind for the sheer reason that I think Giannis might be able to save him, and I think Dame knows how to play with another dominant scorer because he played with a CJ McCollum in Portland. So he could share a backcourt with a person that could still give you 20 plus. I don't know.
I appreciate the optimism, but how I see it in my head is they get Bradley Beal, they come up short in the playoffs, right? They're like, oh, well, they got him halfway through the year. Give them a full offseason, just like we're saying in Phoenix.
Yeah.
Next year is going to come around, and then we're like, oh, Giannis is disgruntled. Giannis wants out. That's, in my head, I appreciate the optimism, and usually I'm the one that's being optimistic, but realistically, that's what I see a year from now if they make that move.
But it happens either way. Either way, it happens. If they don't,
I think it speeds up the process if they get Beal and it fucks up. I'll put it that way. All right. Wrap this all up. What I can confidently say is I think Jimmy Butler is going to be a Phoenix Sun in a month.
Yes.
However, whatever teams are involved, whatever players are involved, no matter what, in a month from now, Jimmy Butler is going to be a Phoenix Sun. You can clip this, you can quote me on it, whatever. I am so very confident that is happening.
Yeah, we got a couple weeks. It's not even a month. We only
got a couple weeks left. So I think it's things are heating up now. Reports of they're talking to teams, getting things set up. So we'll follow that along. We'll keep you updated when we are back here next week. But before then, Jerry, do you have anything you want to add to close up this episode?
Yeah, man. I got a couple things, man. One, I love Kel'el Ware, and I always felt like he should have been inserted into Miami starting lineup a long time ago. So now that people see him dominating, shout out to him, man. Happy for Kel'el. Two, have we seen the UConn Huskies struggling here? I feel like not a lot of people have been talking about that. I feel like it's kind of been swept under the rug a little bit because, two-time back-to-back national champions. They put in all these guys in the first round of the NBA draft. Dan Hurley pump fakes to go to L.A. to go coach, and he's like, nah, I'm going to take that UConn money. Now they're ranked 19th in the country. They're not terrible.
Not good.
They're still a solid team. But I don't think we're talking enough about, hey, UConn kind of had some slippage. They don't have Donovan Clingan anymore. They don't have Stephon Castle. They lost a lot of big names. And I think people are like, well, it's UConn. They're still going to go down there. They're about to go 3 for 3.
They sound like Vince McMahon.
Ruthless aggression.
Ruthless aggression. Admittedly, I haven't really been following college basketball much this season, so I wasn't too aware of UConn's a slippage in the rankings or anything. But I usually pick up on college basketball as the year gets towards the tournament and stuff like that.
I feel it.
We'll keep you updated with UConn too. That'll be Jerry's weekly UConn updates. Maybe we can do at the end of every episode.
If they fall out the top 25, I ain't talking about them.
No, they're not worth our time. But I think that's all we got here. Thank you guys so much for tuning in for another episode of Sitting Courtside, number 72. We're getting there. We're almost at a 3/4 of a century, which is crazy, but we're getting there.
28 away.
28 away. That's good math. I wouldn't have been able to put that together that quick. Please make sure to like and subscribe if you are here watching on YouTube. Put on the notification bells if you don't already so you can get our videos ASAP when they come out. Check out all the other content here on YouTube and our shorts content, our gamified stuff you can check out here as well. If you're an audio-only listener, we appreciate it. Please make sure to give us a 5-star rating, review, all that good stuff. Tell a friend, tell a family member about our podcast. If you know a basketball fan, put them on to sit in courtside. We appreciate you guys so much, and we will see you here next week.
Woo! Sure.